Okay, everybody. Not sure if I should just get going. I'm just going to go ahead and start. My name is Saskia Esslinger, and I am the owner of a small business called Teach Gardening, and also the founder of Homer Seed Library.
Saskia, hold on a second. Yeah. My apologies. Let me go ahead and start. I lost track of time. I'm glad you woke me up. No problem. I do want to give everybody a little bit of a welcome and a warning that we are recording this. So if you don't want to be recorded, feel free to turn off your videos. My name is Kyra Wagner, and I will be moderating the session. Feel free to put your questions in the chat. And now we would like to welcome Saskia Esslinger to begin our first presentation. We're going to have a couple of very good ones today, a few good ones about all kinds of innovations when it comes to our local food system. So take it away, Saskia.
Awesome. Thanks, Kyra. Great. So my name is Saskia Esslinger. As I was saying, I have a business called Teach Gardening, and then I started the Homer Seed Library last year. And I really just wanted to talk today a little bit about home gardening, because that's my passion, and then my seed library project that I started. And my business, I live in Homer with my two boys who I homeschool. And we grow about over half of our food and forage for over half of our food that we eat. And it's a central part of our life and what we do. And I really feel that home gardeners are overlooked as the source of food security for our state, for everybody. So anyway, I'm going to share my screen. I do have a PowerPoint presentation for you all to share with you. And okay. Great. So as I said, I believe that gardeners are the foundation of food security because they are decentralized and there are strength in numbers. If one person is unwell or sick and decides not to garden that year, there's lots of other gardeners that can fill the shoes. Unlike a farm, where if you have certain farms that go out of business, or especially when it's a big dairy farm and it's the only dairy farm in the state, then it causes a big problem. But when you have lots of little people producing food in little pockets, there's so much strength in that in times of, well, in all times, in times of disaster, catastrophe especially, but in all years and all situations. The other thing is that food is grown right where people need it. So it's the freshest that it can be. And all food starts to break down as soon as it's harvested, which is why when a lot of food gets to Alaska, it's pretty tasteless, which I don't blame why people don't like to eat vegetables when they don't taste that great. But when vegetables are harvested right from the garden, they have more vitamins and nutrition, and they also taste so much better. Lettuce, for example, has this milky white substance in it that is it's like a sap, and it dries up within 24 hours of harvest. And that sap is where all the vitamins and minerals are. So it's really important to get food fresh. And even farmers market food has been picked at least the day before. And the other thing is that the food that is grown in gardens is nutrient dense, clean food, unlike a lot of stuff that's in the stores, and even farmed food. tends to not have as much vitamins and minerals as it if it's grown in depleted soil. And plus, there are so many farmers, even in this state, that use a lot of plastic mulches, which they've been proven to shown that these plastic mulches actually break down and go into the soil, and that the plastic particles are taken up by the food and ingested, and you ingest them when you eat your food. And of course, we know that that's not good for us. So just a little comparison between industrial agricultural and regenerative gardening. Now, I realize that there's a lot of gray area in between these two, but I just wanted to contrast industrial agriculture, which is often touted as the only way to feed the world, when in fact, it takes 3 acres per person in industrial agriculture to feed each person, 3 acres. Whereas with regenerative gardening, using intensive techniques and that perennial vegetables, and not all gardening is regenerative gardening, I just want to say, but when we are using our best techniques, we can grow enough food for each person on 1/4 to 1/30 of an acre per person. The other thing is that industrial agriculture, of course, creates all kinds of soil erosion, pollution. It's creating, it's one of the leading causes of global warming. It causes a loss of biodiversity. It produces unhealthy food, and there's actually trillions of dollars in externalized costs. And the interesting thing to me is that this is what the Farm Bill is supporting, is industrial agriculture. And I always like to say that one of the best things that we could do to turn around the health crisis and the environmental crisis in America is stop subsidizing industrial food and start subsidizing regenerative gardening. Because what regenerative gardening does is it stores carbon in the soil. So it's actually an agent for change, and can actually reverse global warming. It also builds soil, it restores ecosystem health, and it produces healthy, clean food. And then also, I always like to say, why do farmers get to have all the fun? Because gardening is such a wonderful pastime. It gives you exercise. It's proven to reduce anxiety and stress, making us more mentally healthy, and it restores our connection to nature, which is the very basic of what it means to be human, is we are a part of nature. And it's that disconnection from nature that is causing so much turmoil and stress in our lives. So what is possible, you might ask, because can gardening really make a difference? And well, in World War II, over 40% of our nation's food came from home gardens. And we could even do better than that. In Cuba, they grow 90% of fruits and vegetables in gardens. Most of this is in urban areas. The gardening over there is incredible, and we have so much to learn, even though they're in a completely different climate than us. The transition that they went through from growing sugarcane to growing their own food is incredible. Also, Russia is another great example. They have the system of dachas because during communism, the collectivized farms were so inefficient that the people took it under their own powers. They were like, well, we have to start growing our own food. So they actually started squatting on the land. And then the Russian government realized that this was actually a really good thing because the people could grow their own food and provide stability. And so they started making the dacha system more regulated, and they gave a plot to each person that wanted one. And it was about the size of a regular city lot is what they have. The dachas, most of them are about that size, about 6,000 to 7,000 square feet. And they grow over 50% of their food on these dachas. And it comprises, I think it was like 3% of the nation's food. And then 70% of Russians garden. So there's just so much potential there. It's not that everybody has to garden, but that so many more people could garden and probably want to garden. And you might be saying now, is this actually possible in Alaska with our short growing season? And I want to assure you that it is. I myself kept track of everything that I grew one year I did an Alaska food challenge where I ate only Alaskan food for an entire year, and I wanted to grow as much of it as I could on my city lot. And this was in Anchorage, and I grew over 1,600 pounds. And I had potential for growing so much more. My garden was actually quite young. I expanded it a lot for this project, but I could have gotten so much more production out of it if I had kept with that garden. And I have since moved to Homer, so I don't have this garden anymore. I wish I did, because I know that it could be even more productive now. I think that I could probably have grown 4 times that amount of food or more on that lot. So areas to strengthen for home gardeners. I asked in my group, I have a couple of Facebook groups, of what people would want and how they feel like they could be supported. And one of the top things was more education. And people want to know what are low cost, low maintenance ways and highly productive garden techniques. They want to know how to garden without plastic. I know high tunnels are very, very popular, but they are a lot of plastic, and that plastic has to go away sometime. And we know there is no way. So we really need to learn how to grow a lot of food without the plastic in the natural world. They also wanted to know more about how to preserve food. So how can we preserve the food for the winter time so that we can actually eat from our gardens year round, which is totally doable. Like I mentioned, in my sons and I, we basically produce most of our fruits and vegetables from our lot, and also from bartering and the we wild harvest a lot as well. And then cold storage is always a big problem for my students. It's most houses these days don't have root cellars, and root cellars are really the best way to store a lot of the crops that grow well in Alaska. Potatoes, carrots, beets, cabbages all store very well, and can last all winter long in a good root cellar. So developing community cold storages would be excellent. And then there's also a history in Alaska of doing community freezer spaces. So you go in, you have a key to the front door, and then you have a key to your locker, and you can store your extra produce or fish and game in a community freezer space. So then the other thing is access to land. So of course, not everybody has a yard. We're very blessed in Alaska, actually, that most people live in single family homes here. So there are a lot of people with big yards that are currently just growing grass and have the potential to grow enormous amounts of food. But then there's also people that live in apartments, and we want them to be able to garden too. There are lots of community gardens already, but there's so much more potential for more. And they can be on public land, they can be in parks, schools, churches, businesses, and more. And then we have access to seeds. Seeds are generally not a large cost, but when you are growing a big garden and a lot of things, it can add up, and it can be a barrier to some people. So offering free seeds, and then the knowledge to grow and a community around growing is really important. And we are addressing this through seed libraries in Alaska. So what is a seed library and how does it work? Seed libraries are basically a living collection of seeds. People borrow seeds from the seed library, i.e. we give them away. They grow them. They pick a few things to save seeds from. They don't have to save seeds from everything they grow, and they don't even have to save seeds at all. There's no obligation to return seeds to the library, but we ask people to learn how to do it so that they can return seeds to the library and we can hand them out to more people. A lot of the seed libraries in Alaska are also offering free education on gardening and seed saving. And the great thing about seed libraries is that they preserve rare and heirloom seeds, and then they also develop plant varieties suited to the local climate. So the importance of seed saving is that it preserves the food culture of a place. And as a young state and a young, there is already a food culture here, and it's not always totally related to gardening. It's more related to wild harvesting, but we can develop our food culture, by having these local strains. I met a woman who has been saving the same strain of Siberian kale for a generation already. And she generously passed this on to the seed library, and that can become part of our local heritage. Also, the over-commercialization of food production has caused a loss of 75% of the seed varieties worldwide. A lot of the seed companies the small seed companies are being bought up by larger seed companies, and they are doing away with a lot of the varieties that have traditionally been offered. So now only 4 companies control over 60% of global seed sales. And a lot of those seeds are genetically modified. Over half of the land in the US in 2013 was planted with GMO seed. Over half of the cropland, which is just a little bit scary to me. Those GMO seeds, of course, can contaminate regular seeds. And then there's also hybrid seeds. When I was ordering the seeds for the seed library, I noticed that in some of the seed companies, they were only offering hybrid seeds of certain things. And the hybrids are a forced cross between 2 different varieties. It's not the same as GMO, but when you try to save seeds from a hybrid, it reverts back to one of the parents, and it's not a stable seed. So you don't ever know what you're going to get. And while this can be interesting if you want to breed new varieties of seeds, it's not a reliable way of producing food. So we really want to be saving seeds from open pollinated varieties, some of which are heirlooms, which heirlooms are seeds that have been handed down for many generations. So what I'm trying to say is that a lot of those open pollinated and heirloom seeds are harder and harder to get. And we're losing some of those varieties. If they're not being grown out, they have the potential to be lost forever. And so when we have a seed library, we can grow out some of those more rare seeds. We can save them we can have more genetic diversity to combat global warming or global weirding, as we might say it. So as things change, we want as much diversity as we can so that we can survive whatever comes our way as in terms of changes in our environment. So it used to be that seed saving was just a normal part of life on a farm or life on a homestead. But now that knowledge has really been lost. I've been really surprised at how few people in Homer know how to save seeds and have been saving them in a way that produces good seed for us to keep growing out. So there's a lot to know there, and most people don't know how to do it. So there are already several seed libraries statewide. Like I mentioned, the Homer Seed Library was started last year, so we're in our 2nd season here. Soldotna just got their seed library up, I think last week. They just started. And then their Matsu Seed Library has several locations in Talkeetna and Wasilla, and they will also mail out seeds to you. And then there's also ones that I don't have pictures of that I've been told about in Sitka and Esther, Alaska. And then in Anchorage, I've noticed there are a couple of pop-up seed libraries. There's one that my friend is doing in Takishla Park in Anchorage, that's in Airport Heights. right by the Scotty Gomez rink. And then in Blue Market, I was there this last week and I saw that there was a little seed exchange in the corner there with free seeds for people to take. And I talked to the ladies there and they said that they were inspired by me to start that little seed exchange. So really fun, doesn't take a whole lot to put some seeds out. So in each one of these drawers in this card catalog, this is again the Homer Seed Library, there are so many seed packets for people to take, and they're all varieties that grow well up here. Rutabaga, one of the most overlooked vegetables, grows really big, produces a lot of food calories, and does fantastic outside. Of course, spinach and squash and all these things do really well. And then on the seed packets are some instructions actually for how to plant these varieties in your location so that people have some kind of an idea of how to plant them. And last year we passed out over 3,700 seed packets in our first year. It was just really, really successful. And we had over 120 people sign up to be members as well. And it's free to become a member. We just like to keep track of who's borrowing seeds and what they're borrowing so that we can put that on grants and also see who's interested in volunteering and so forth. This is part of the process of the seeds. People borrow the seeds, then they grow them out. And then this is one of my sons harvesting some kale seeds. So it's really awesome that this is an activity that can be done with all ages. All ages in the community can participate in it. The other great thing is that seed saving naturally lends itself to a community-wide effort because it takes up a lot of space in a garden, but you generally get a lot of seeds from it. So for instance, from 7 parsnips, you could get over a pound of seed, which is enough to grow 70,000 parsnips or 20,000 pounds of parsnips. So there's definitely enough seed in those 7 parsnips to offer seed to the entire community and maybe even other seed libraries as well. The nice thing also is that it lasts for several years. So it's not like you have to use it all up at once, but the seed would go bad before I could use it all. So it lends itself well to like, I'll share my parsnip seeds with you and you share your beet seeds with me so that we don't all have to produce all the seeds that we want to grow in our garden. And then here's my volunteers. They're kind of conscripted volunteers with my homeschool co-op, my own kids, and then some other kids that I have over. And I had them help me clean the seeds, breaking the pods open and getting the seeds out. And then we clean them with some seed sieve. And the seed sieve is available for borrowing. So people can borrow this to help clean their seeds. And then you can return them to the seed library table. There's a basket at the table for donations. And then I have people fill out a little form that tells us a little bit more information about the seeds that they're donating. Like these nasturtium seeds that you see there, somebody donated them and her mother had been growing out these nasturtium seeds for 40 years. And every year had collected the seeds from them and used them the next year. And just the story behind this, her mother had recently gotten ill and passed away, and she wanted to pass on the seeds so that these nasturtiums would continue to grow in memory of her mother. It's a really, really beautiful way to pass on stories as well as just the seeds. So last year we got some funding to offer free workshops. We did do them over Zoom, and we had over 200 individual registrations for these workshops. So not only did we do seed saving, but we also did some gardening workshops so that people that weren't as familiar with how to grow those intensive gardens that are high yielding and low maintenance could learn a little bit more about it. And also the Homer Seed Library has lots and lots of volunteers that help package the seeds up and do the seed library. And it's such a neat community activity. Like I mentioned, like all ages can do it. From, I know at the Matsu Seed Library, they're having seed packing parties at the senior center. And the seniors are just loving being able to contribute in a meaningful way. And I've been doing my seed packing a little bit different. I have people pick up a bag with seeds and envelopes and tags at my house, and then they put it together and return it to me to be inventoried and then stocked in the seed library. But it's such a cool, I really want to get more as COVID is dying down and we can hopefully start meeting again. I really want it to be more of a gathering exercise where people get together and they can talk about the gardening and the seed saving as they're packaging the seeds, and we can all learn and become a tight-knit seed saving and gardening community together. We can all learn from each other. We can all support each other in this process, because it's not all that easy to save seeds in Alaska. There are a lot of challenges with it because our season is so short. It can be difficult to get the seeds to mature in our short season, but it is possible and it can be done. The other thing before I go on to this page is I wanted to mention is that for each successive generation that is planted out in the garden, these seeds become more acclimated to our climate. So we're selecting the seeds from the plants that do best in our gardens. And what that does is it selects for the things that will do well here. So after 7 years, we call those seeds Landrace Seeds. They're seeds that have been grown in a particular area for 7 seasons. And those seeds are going to perform better here than seeds that are grown down south. So as we are doing this project, we will be more and more having more consistent harvests, having better seeds, as well as the cost of not having to buy seeds. I would say that's almost a minimal expense compared to the benefits that we get of just having our own seeds that do really well here. So anyway, you can find me at these locations. I have my website at teachgardening.com, and that also has a tab on it for the Homer Seed Library with more information about any workshops that we're doing. I'm hoping to have a couple of workshops this spring. We don't have funding to do them for free this year. So we're still looking around for that funding, or possibly we'll just offer paid workshops. And then there's also a couple of Facebook groups that I run. As I mentioned, there's the Homer Seed Library group. And then I also have a Facebook group for anybody in the state called the Garden Revolution. And that's where I talk a lot about these things, about the food system, about gardening, and get people excited about growing more food. And then you can find me on Instagram, or you can email me directly at alaskaseskia@gmail.com. All right, I think I nailed the time there.
Perfect, so well done.
Yeah.
Thank you, Saskia.
You're
All
welcome.
right. We're going to move on to the next presentation regarding turning food deserts into farms. Be hearing from Grayson Wallace and Jenny Stoneking, and Red Bradley. I do see you're on here, so if you guys want to start up, take it over.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Grayson Wallace, and Jenny and I work at Alaska Village Initiatives, and we are presenting today on our farm education program, which is a part of helping those in areas where they might have limited access, or just needing some startups for farming and education, and even some possible different elements to it, which will include some also business aspects to make sure that you don't go broke trying to grow everything. I'm going to share my screen for our website here. And I will let Jenny do her introduction now.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. I had to think about what time it was. I am Jenny, also work at Alaska Village Initiatives with Grayson and several other amazing people. And we're excited to share this main project that we're working on right now with everyone that's attending today. As soon as Grayson gets it up, hopefully.
Oh, it tells me it's up. There we go.
Smooth sailing.
Yeah, there it is. All right. So this is part of our website that we have for AVI. It has quite a few of our different programs we currently are running and operating at this moment. And the one that we'll be focusing in on today is our farm education. And to show off a little bit at the beginning here, this is a little bit of an overview. This is for civil agriculture in Alaska that is going to provide training to socially disadvantaged beginning and veteran village farmers. Essentially, we're really trying to reach out to everyone across the state, no matter where they're at, and really make sure that this is adapted to their climate, their plant hardiness zone, and their regions. And we'll have about 20 different courses over a 3-year time period. This is to really make sure that you have assistance and help all the way through those first 3 years, as we know they're some of the most criticals in making sure that they are a sustainable farm or gardening operation. And we do have a small section so that if you are interested, you can just sign up. That gives us all your information to make sure that we can reach you the best way possible for getting us into this program. And so this is some of our curriculum. Go ahead, Jenny.
I would point out, if Grayson scrolls back up just a little bit, if you are interested in taking these courses that we have been working really hard on developing, especially the ones for the spring right now. So it does mention out which classes. Ideally, we'd love if you took all of them. If there's just some things that are more necessary for you or where you're at or something that you're more interested in taking, then you can easily just choose whichever ones that apply to you. But it lays out nicely so that way you can sign up or inquire at least about certain ones that are interested to you. Sorry.
Okay. And so this lays out our curriculum for the next 3 years. And if you should, for some reason, decide to put this on the back burner for a year, we are going to be developing this curriculum into something that can hopefully also be archived and gone back to. So even though you might miss it this first year, we can definitely help you on through at any time if you want to jump in on this program so that we can help out as many folks as possible through it. This kind of breaks down, as you can see, into next year, we will be going a little bit more into the ag business side so that we can make sure that you know the best ways to get kind of extra funding for different things. Or if you're looking to scale up, maybe getting a couple different specialty tools or things like that that can help you out a little bit better to make sure that you're not looking at those heavy costs that might happen as you're trying to get into the gardening process.
And we do know that, I was trying to read Red's chat. We do know that the villages and areas of Alaska are not one size fits all. So it's important that we are going to make these as specific to your needs and your area that you're in as possible. So whether you're trying to just do a couple of raised beds or any other kind of large scale community garden or something along those lines. Red wants to point out that these are self-paced courses will be coming out next year. So the delivery for these classes at the moment, we're looking at either doing live recordings, possibly coming to you. Don't quote me on that, depending on the circumstances and what works best for you. We really want to make this as user-friendly as possible to your needs. So we're kind of here to help just improve agriculture across Alaska.
And in some of those, for how we're going to be delivering them and everything, some of these programs that we do have are paired very well nicely together. as you can see across the top, we do have a soil testing one, and that is a part of us really trying to make sure that when we do give you this lesson, we really know what you're going to be working with. So if there is some soil modifications that you might need to look at to get the best growth possible, because as we know from some of our other wonderful lessons that or discussions that we've had this week so far in the conference, is really keeping those microbes happy and making your soil the best that you can, is, you know, making sure that you know what you're working with as well. And so that is definitely a opportunity that we have for folks if they want to contact us about that as well. And then some of these classes, as you can see, there is quite extensive on them. They are kind of split to be taught when the season is best for it. So we're going to try to get them to you, you know, so that you have all that knowledge as fresh in your brain as possible, and it's right there at your fingertips to make sure that you can use it right away. Because as most folks, you know, kind of know, it's fun to learn things, but then if you don't have a chance to utilize it right away, sometimes those little elements to it can get kind of lost. And to help with that as well, we are also working on added and extended kind of educational tools that will be accessible to folks through things like garden planning worksheets, just reminder kind of pamphlets of important key information to think about when you're either composting or making sure that your vegetables aren't too crowded, and different elements like that, so that you have that knowledge at your fingertips at all times. And it's as easy as, you know, just turning to your lessons that you either participated with us at or in a PDF that you have been able to pull up or print out. And this kind of gives down a little bit more of a breakdown into some of our aspects of our lessons. Jenny.
So you can see some of the different things that were considered when you think of Alaska. Of course, we have high food costs, travel restrictions, high cost transportation. A lot of different things are going into our goals and why we're trying to have this, why we even received this grant, and what we're trying to do for Alaska. So we're really trying to make the communities as self-sustainable necessarily as possible. Really, the goal of civil agriculture is to be able to produce, if Grayson goes back up a little, I like the definition on here. No, up a little more. So ideally, that specific communities should be able to economically independent and socially unified. So then if we can achieve civil agriculture, hopefully we're going to have people growing in the one area. And that's going to really improve the economy, but then also improve them health-wise overall. A lot of other benefits when it comes to growing. So some different things, as we kind of talked about in module 1, at least, we're going to make it as easy as possible for you to be able to grow. So looking at your assessment of the location to really find the best place to garden. We're starting at the very basics, then soil, you know, have to start from the ground up, all the way up to cover crops. And then at the end of the harvest, hopefully we're going to worry about preservation and harvesting and seed saving, which kind of ties right into the last presentation if you were in the same room as this one is in. So we really want to take you from step 1 all the way, hopefully, to finished product, where you're, you know, if you join our classes next year, then they're going to be more about business planning, to actually be making a profit off of that. And then the third modules that we're going to be doing are kind of more of an advanced agriculture, so different things when it comes to different types of gardening, worrying about cover crops. So we really have this laid out, ideally that someone would take it as a complete beginner and then go from no knowledge, maybe not any experience when it comes to gardening, all the way to being really successful. And that's kind of the point of doing the 3 years. So then that way we're here with you and you're more likely to continue growing as a gardener instead of getting maybe frustrated and quitting. That happens a lot when we try new things, especially something that's kind of hands-on and physical like gardening. we can see all the different outcomes that we're hoping to get through the short-term, medium-term, and long-term goals, which is all laid out in the grant, which is really impactful for the whole state of Alaska.
And with these, we're really trying to make sure that it's also scalable. So if you look at this and maybe think it's a little overwhelming in terms of, I don't want to grow that much, or I don't want to put that much into it. Maybe I only want to do one raised bed, garden bed, and that's all you really want to operate with because that feeds your whole family. Then that's fine. That's perfect, because we'd rather you feel comfortable on knowing how much you need. And that is actually a part of our lessons, is even understanding how much to grow to feed whatever amount you're trying to feed. If you're growing for the whole community, we'll make sure that you understand how much you'll need for planting, how to deal with shrinkage when it comes time to have harvest, and how that can affect different things. And then if you're wanting to just do your family, and your family is you and your dog versus, you 18 kids, a few nephews and nieces, aunties, uncles, and maybe a grandma and grandpa, then we'll scale that to whatever fits you're working with. Because if anything, that is the nice part about gardening and farming, is that it can scale pretty easily once you have the bare bone basics, and once you've kind of done those initial rounds in growing whatever you are particularly growing in your area. And so some of those will really kind of work into that as we understand your location and all those different elements that you get to have, and really kind of build off of and encourage to make sure that it is as hopefully less bumpy as possible and as less daunting as possible. I know it can seem overwhelming when you're in the gardening section and you're looking at all the different tools and seeds and this option versus this option of compost and this kind of mulch or this kind, and it can be overwhelming. And then even looking at the price tag, you're not sure what might work best, and you don't want to spend on testing those out. You'd like to ask and just have a clear answer that helps you in your area. That's what we're going to be striving to provide the very best of for, is making sure that it is as clear process as possible, and it is adapted to you, to your area, and your wants and needs in terms of growing. And so that's kind of our big thing of just how much it is focused in on what works for you. And we're going to be contactable year round. We have a couple of different ways of contacting us at this point. You can email us. We do have AskAG, which is a fun website that we have been working on for a while now, on putting out Alaskan ag related answers to questions, to having solutions hopefully for things, or even just showing what options there might be that you might not have come across before as something that you can work with, or even utilize in maybe a little bit different of a way that works a little bit better for our climate up here in Alaska.
And I believe read through the link to AskAG in the chat. You can always find any of our programs on the agalaska.org page. So the one that we're talking about right now is the Farm EDU, or we're just going to call it Ag Education. But AskAG is great if you have any ag-related questions that you would like answered, especially if you don't want to, post them on a Facebook page. It seems like a popular thing that some people do. You never know the types of answers you're getting, but we will make sure to find the best answer for you for your question. So feel free. It's a pretty simple site to navigate. So we popped onto AskAG, and all you have to do is click Ask Aggie a question.
And that will come to lovely ag experts. And if they cannot find the answer, they will do all the searching possible to then discover what the answer might be. As you can see on here, we also have archives. So if you've missed a few articles, or if you have some questions that maybe you want to see if we've already answered, you can look it up. We have tried to make sure that the tag words in there are best for searching. And it does kind of reverse search for us. So if you remember AskAG, but you don't remember Ag Alaska, that's okay. You can see our program is listed here on our site. And so you can go backwards and then look around Ag Alaska or look into whatever we might be operating. We'll try to make sure it's all on here for you. And then we do also try to highlight other aspects that are going on around the state. So we have, you know, from the Division of Agriculture, the micro grants, which was talked about in a session earlier today or yesterday about their opportunities there. So we try to highlight just about everything ag related to Alaska as possible. And so we'll try to have that on there in the most timely manner as possible so that you guys can look at that when needed. All right, so I'm going to go back over to our Farm Ed. And Jenny, because you can see things a little bit easier since I'm sharing my screen, do we have any current questions that we need to answer or anything?
I think so far it's just been read, throwing out links. Anybody have any questions at the moment that we can answer?
Thank
Sure,
you, Karen.
I'll ask a question.
Yes.
So Alaska Village Initiatives is a tribally focused or native village focused organization. What if you're not in an area that has very many villages?
As long as you count as rural for our project, we can help out. This is for anyone who's considered socially disadvantaged or a veteran. And so we do have some folks that are interested even here in the Palmer area and different things like that. So it's kind of open to everyone in the state in terms of we will do our best to make sure that we can get you this education as possible. It's not necessarily you have to live distinctly in like one specific village or anything like that.
I'll say, yeah, most of Alaska, just because of the ruralness to Alaska, accounts for the social disadvantage, at least in terms of this grant, for us to be able to deliver education. So Heidi asked when the first session starts. So we're looking at starting either April 23rd or
about the end of April, we're going to be rolling them out.
And it's really going to be dependent on some of the people that we already had inquire and what works best for them. So we're really trying to make it as we're here to serve you. So however we can make it that works best for you on times and stuff like that. Thanks for the question. So Karen asked if we have a map of the areas in the state that would be able to apply for the program.
Let me.
I think we took that off the site when Red redid it.
Yes. Okay. So the original rollout of it was looking at the 22 villages within kind of south central area of Alaska. But because we've gotten some interest outside of that, we have kind of opened it to all of the areas. So it's not distinctly one kind of area. We were just working with those that we thought might be able to be reached a little bit easier if we were able to travel at least along the road system. But it is kind of whoever would like to come learn with us, because we want to reach everyone as much as possible.
Yes, we decided anybody that is interested, if you could fill out the registration inquiry on the main page that Grayson's on right now, that'd be great, and we will get back to everyone. I'm trying to keep up with.
So this is it's pretty basic registration. You can definitely put in all your questions. If you have maybe a specific topic in mind, it might already be included in a lesson, because some of these lessons will be either a couple of hours long to possibly even a couple of days, depending on how it gets broken up when we are delivering them. So that might be in there, but if it's one that you don't see on there, feel free to ask us, and we can probably add it in as a lesson or as an added interest lesson. We had some questions about berry growing, and so we've added that in as a added lesson already, just so that we know that those ones do tend to take several years for fully establishment to get harvest crops off of them. So we know we wanted to offer that pretty early on. So for those are interested in berries, we can make sure that they get set up, and we can help them through those first few years of getting that kind of production up to a higher level.
I guess we forgot to mention that these courses are completely free to anyone that is able to participate. That was a question in the chat that we had. So definitely important information. There are some spendy, I'm sure they're all very well worth it, but there are some spendy garden classes out there. So these ones will all be free of cost.
Yes. All right, let's see here. I'm just looking at the time too. Okay, and then, so just to briefly talk about it for a second, is that we do have in the fall coming up the business classes that we'll be going into as well. And so this is something that if you have been thinking about needing possibly some paired business classes, or just something that you're interested in general, this is something else that we will be working towards. And we love it when we get the interest in early, because then we know how better we can even reach people and what methods we can look at a little bit easier. And so feel free to let us know if this is something that you're interested in. These are some of the kind of courses that we'll be working on developing. And so this is a part of the different grants that we've been able to receive. And overcompassing these all in general too is that we've gotten the grant to be able to start setting it up, and we're getting in that first initial phases of it. But hopefully coming to a screen soon to you will be our Ag TV, our Alaskan Ag TV, so that we can really broadcast these things out and make it super accessible to everybody, no matter what. And of course, as we're all very excited to have better internet, as we keep hoping for here in Alaska. I'm gonna stop sharing this now. All right.
Yes, so as Red points out, that we do hope to have the broadcast studio built by the end of this summer, while hopefully we're teaching a lot of other people. Oh, Red turned his camera on. While we're teaching a lot of other people how to manage cover crops and manage their weeds. We've been doing some construction indoors.
It's going to be a busy year for AVI.
Yes.
Yes. All right. Do we have anything else?
Or was there anything else that you wanted to mention, Red?
I don't think so. I think that we covered everything. We've been fortunate this year to get 3 federal grants and that have allowed us to do the ag agriculture. It's taken us into allow us to do the business side of it. And the most exciting thing is that we'll build the studio at AVI's offices. We plan on doing kind of workshops live with experts from around the country. And there's no stopping us now. Now we're at a full trot.
And I did get a message, Delia, I'm not putting you on blast or anything. I just want to let you know, in case this does happen on our website and you register for the classes and then maybe it says you can't register for something else, just put it in the notes that you're also wanting to register for whatever else it might be. But I'll make sure that I put you down. Sorry, I have a 2-year-old. She really likes Zoom meetings, but we'll make sure that we put you down and we'll get that info so that then we can definitely make sure that you can get in on those other programs as well. And kind of, we're hoping to build a nice community through these programs to really make sure that we can have as many folks kind of cross-trained in all of this as well. Well, there went my phone.
Yes, ideally everything just kind of builds up on one another. So really just pushing out all kinds of different aspects of agriculture and business education. Thank you for the nice comments in the chat.
I love this. I love the home. Hi. She's very excited as well. She really likes growing.
Hi, Rowan.
So thanks, everybody. Again, feel free to contact us anytime. We'll also put our emails in the chat just in case you want to contact us directly. I know we're running out of time, but thank you all so much for joining us today to talk about it.
Perfect. Thank you, guys. There are
Thank you,
a couple more
everyone who
minutes.
attended.
There are a couple minutes if we have any more questions. If not, we'll open it up to our next group. Last call. All right. Thanks, Grayson and Jenny. Thanks, Red. That was
Thank
awesome.
you.
Very impressive. Thanks for taking it on. All right. Now I'm going to open it up to our next panel. We've got Zoe here, I see. Is there anyone here to introduce Zoe?
Yes, hi, this is Alyssa Rodriguez. Hi.
Hello.
Hi. So we are thrilled. My name is Alyssa Rodriguez. I'm with the Alaska MEP. We help advance manufacturing and manufacturers in Alaska. We provide services directly to manufacturers, and we are thrilled today to have Zoe from Bambino's with us here today to talk about how using local food. Sorry, I have Bambino's in the background right now, but how using local foods really impacted her business. And I don't want to steal too much from her. I really want to hand it over to her, but we're really thrilled to hear about her story and how it all worked for you. So thank you, Zoe. I'll let you take it away.
Thank you. Delighted to be here with you all this afternoon. I'll go ahead and share my screen here in 1 second. Here we go. Can you all see?
Yeah.
Not yet. Just seeing you.
Oh no, my computer just froze. Wrong time. Goodness. Not the right time to freeze my.
That's okay. We can take our time and give you a minute.
Okay.
And then I know we have someone from the Alaska, from the festival here as a moderator. If we need to. Oh, it's working. Perfect.
Hey, slowly, surely.
You got
Love
it.
technology. Okay. Well, welcome. I'm Zoe Marudas, founder and owner of Bambino's Baby Food here in Anchorage, Alaska. Really excited to share with you our Alaskan journey. I really think that our company kind of like encapsulates our opportunities, the love of growing a business and bringing different communities together from different sectors of our industry. This picture actually here with our Alaska state flag, my son actually many years ago when he was in kindergarten, he says, "Mommy," I need a whole bag of Bambino's baby food. And he came home and he started scribbling on this piece of paper and took our Bambino's baby food that comes in these cute little stars. These are actually them, and placed them as an Alaskan map. So I thought this was a perfect example of just saying how Bambino's Baby Food, our Alaskan farmers and fishermen, our business innovation and everything kind of brings it all together. So wanted to share that. My background, my family, we come from Greece. We came here in 1984. Picture on the left is actually the island that I'm from, and it has these gorgeous beaches. You kind of think about in January where we are here in Alaska. At the same time, it has these gorgeous beaches. This is my mother and myself here on the center picture before we came to Alaska. As you can see, we're washing clothes by hand, just very traditional, very old fashioned. We lived in a rural area. And then in the center picture is our olive orchard. So my parents were farmers. We had our own animals. We grew our own food. Predominantly, that was all the funds that we had came from our agriculture, from growing our own seeds to, planting them, to trying to sell them to retail, or just basically to sustain the own family. And then the picture on the right is my grandfather, who came with us in 1984 to Alaska, and my brother George hunting for our goods as well. So I would like to share with you, a little bit more on, my parents. We started that is where the foundation of Bambino's kind of started to evolve and grow, in the sense that my mom, when we came from Greece to Anchorage, she wanted to feed families food as we cooked and prepared in Greece, with love, community, friendship, that love that from every grandmother that cooks, or your aunt or your mother, kind of things like that, and put that into our foods. We were a family of 5 that came here, and we started Pizza Olympia, and then it was just hard work, perseverance, working and loving our community together, and breaking bread per se. What led me to create Bambino's Baby Food? Well, years of customer service and food production. In the small kitchen that we had at Pizza Olympia, we were able to pump out a lot of food at this short time. Also seeing and understanding the needs of families that were coming in. We saw families who had digestive and swallowing challenges. We saw people coming in for birthdays. We saw people coming in for, anniversaries. And unfortunately, also we see people during hardships that, in memory of a loved one who has just passed. And food encompasses every moment of our being, from the time we are born to the time that we grow up and mature and get more Arctic highlights, per se. I like to say that. And so food has the power to nurture and care. And I learned that a lot in being in our parents' restaurant. My personal background that I really wanted to nurture was science. And so I went to University of Washington, and I went also to Baylor University, where I studied medicine. And I love the science. I love the human body, just, its mysteries and understanding inner words. And there is a very close connection of the food that we put in our bodies. It heals us, it nurtures us, it fuels us, per se. So my research that I did there was in geriatrics, gynecological oncology, and neurology. And I kind of blended in our organic farming, which we still do today in Greece. In fact, I'll share a little bit more along that. And then while I was doing one of my medical rotations, I was working with a group of geriatric patients that had a hard time swallowing. And it was really actually quite distressing at the time, because they were being fed baby food, and you'd see these absolutely brilliant, strong individuals, pushing the food off from their front of them and just saying, just leave me alone, I don't want to eat. And you could see that their health was deteriorating in the sense of lack of nourishment. When the food at the hospital was bland, they knew it was being, they were being fed baby food. And of course, the stereotype of baby food, unless it's fruit, it's not very appetizing. So combining all these little things, all the things that intertwine and make us as an individual, or made me into these, understanding, and bringing all these little pockets from the agriculture, farming in my background, my parents' restaurant, and my education, and that personal connection with families, and understanding and reading into their needs that they have to help address a healthier nutrition. I founded Bambino's Baby Food here in Alaska in 2013, which I was extremely excited. I spent about 2 years with research and development, working with allergists and pediatricians, both in Texas and Alaska, sharing with them the research that I found and that I performed, and saying, I want to change what our baby food looks like today. It is not meeting the needs of families, from nutrition. And the fact is that we share, when we look at an adult or young one saying they're being both fed baby food, we know that this is an incremental, a significant time in their life that needs to have that healthy, nutritious meals in their diet. The seeds that kind of might more inspirely, saying, oh my gosh, what's happening here in Alaska? It was really quite scary, is that 2/3 of our babies are on WIC food supplement programs. And currently, though, our WIC food supplement program is restricting certain combinations like vegetables and proteins mixed together, where they're kind of allowing more fruit and vegetables together, which I think that's something I'll share with you a little bit more, that entices a sweeter palate. And we want children to have their protein mixed together with their vegetables, because we think that's more of a traditional, real lifestyle eating habit that's healthy as well. I would say, also, other than child obesity and issues we have from heart disease, diabetes, cholesterol, depression, there's a lot of health challenges when a child in those first 3 years do not get that foundation support that they need. So every meal that a child eats the first 3 years really impacts them in their 10s, 20s, 30s, 80s, and onwards. So it matters actually a lot more what little ones eat at a younger age than what we might eat today and call it our binge eating or eating something, sweet or something like that. It affects us a lot more as a little one at that under 3 years old. I noticed that food allergies amongst the WIC community was also a lot higher. So I wanted to bring in the combination of the Mediterranean diet, our Alaskan quality goodness, and offer families, full transparency, traceability. We'll produce it here in Anchorage. This is where our vegetables and our seafood are coming from, offering that fresh quality, transparency, and traceability direct to families. And lastly is also to support our environment, that we farm sustainably, fish sustainably, and also produce sustainably, meaning our package waste, to reduce package waste. Most of the baby foods that you'll see in the market come in really small little pouches or jars that is one serving, and many times little ones may or may not complete the full bag or jar and then toss it. So we wanted to limit food and packaging waste as well. This picture here is, I hope you all see that it's not as appetizing as what we think about, our traditional production kind of thing. This is what modern food production looks like. About 95 to 90% of all of our foods are packed by co-packers in the lower 48. There's about 10 big companies. Most of the food that we find in our retail space. And as you can see, it's very cold. It's, as you can see, the facility on the right, they're over 100,000 feet wide and large, and very industrial looking spaces, and growing, the picture on the left is an orange grove, and you don't see that love that you would normally see in folks who, like in some of our presentations that were earlier, that love of farming. It just feels very cold and very distant, which food as important it is for our health, it is also very important that we get that love and that attention into these stages of growing our vegetables and producing our products. So this is what I think of, you know, what we say Bambino's baby food is an extension of your care. We welcome our families. We want them to feel like it's a mom cooking in the kitchen or the grandmother teaching a recipe to the little one. But instead, it's happening in our kitchen where we actually invite families to come in and cook and produce, you know, and to cook with us and see what we're doing, to offer them that full transparency and traceability. They can see through our windows in our kitchen what we're doing. You know, come in, get to meet me, ask questions, things like that. Just kind of take away that that transparency, you know, open the curtains per se. We do this together. Many times our clients, they say, you know, like, Zoe, you're like the auntie. And I feel like the auntie, you know, taking care of our little ones and loving on them. So here's the pictures on the left is some beautiful families producing a homegrown meal. In the center is my mother and myself and my little girl. And on the right is some of our dear friends. It's always really happy and really exciting in our kitchen. We're always, you know, playing different music from around the world or even around from our own state and just kind of honoring and celebrating different traditions and music and food all together. It's one big party per se. Why I chose Alaska and why Bambinos chose Alaska. It's really a natural reaction. You know, we have beautiful, fresh, sustainable seafood, an abundance of them. We can commit and connect with our fishermen and fisherwomen and work together and offer that story and that freshness to our families, take them on the journey. We just partnered up with BBNC and BBRSDA and to share some of the traditional harvesting and how we keep our fish fresh and how we take care of our environment, and also share some Alaskan beautiful traditions, our indigenous traditions. Also, clean water is a big one. Most of the co-packers in the lower 48, they're always having issues. And in fact, one of the biggest expenses in producing foods is clean water. You're really calculating that in part of your expense, especially when you're talking about clean out productions and things like that for producing different products. Our Alaskan vegetables, I cannot praise enough of our Alaskan vegetables and our farmers here. It is really a team effort in what we do here with Bambino's Baby Food. We couldn't do this without our fishermen. We couldn't do this with our wonderful farmers. And many of them are beautiful families that go out and collect together. The beautiful duration of our long summers give us an abundance of beautiful, ripe and super sweet veggies from our carrots, celery, onions, potatoes, a lot of our root growing crops. I'll add a few more things about some other things there in a little bit. And of course, we have a great distribution, our international hub that, you know, for UPS can also help transport our baby food to other states as well. So here's a little bit about Bambino's Baby Food, how we are different than your normal baby food companies. Our products come in these stand-up resealable pouches on the right. They're about 5 by 9, so it's a pretty large package. And it's the same product no matter what age or stage your little one is, whether they're just weaning, you know, they're just from breast milk or formula at 5 months plus, they can transition safely into our meals. At the same time, we're working on immune system development, immune support, and also food allergies, and also with development and digestive expressions as well. Each pouch has about 15 little stars, which you can see at the bottom right of the bag. Those little stars are designed for many purposes, for baby-led weaning, and we'll go into that as well. But the most important is ones, you know, parents, if your little one is 5 months, they'll eat a little bit less. If they're 10 months, 12 months, they'll eat a little bit more. So you can customize that and not have food waste. Plus you're getting one bag that has multiple different servings in the same thing. Our meals tend to be 7 to 10 times more nutritious and that is contributed to our ingredients and it also to our cooking process. And then our focus is protein, grains, and vegetables. In fact, we don't offer any fruit. There's plenty of fruit on the market, and there's also wonderful recipes that parents can make fruit available for their little ones. Most importantly is that fruit is sweet, so you can always get your little ones to eat that. So the biggest challenge is to get little ones to eat their protein, grains, and vegetables, and that's where we are. It's a frozen product. You won't find it in the shelf-stable pouches or bags in the baby food aisle. You'll find it in the freezer. Currently, it's in the frozen meal section. So again, there's no preservatives, no pesticides or herbicides, non-GMO, all of that. And that is also part of it where we get very nutritious because it's a flash frozen product. So the nutrients itself come from the meal, from the ingredients, where it's cooked to the precise time. And then that way no fortification is needed. And also fortified vitamins are very easy to pass through and difficult for little ones to digest. So we're really excited that it's a frozen preservative product as well. Our manufacturing facility is actually open to parents. They can come into a production facility. We're located at the corner of Benson and Spenard, actually very near to Bambino's, to Pizza Olympia. So it's kind of like the big fat Greek wedding. I didn't step too far away, right next to the Buckaroo. And then there we are. So parents can come in. I have a little area where, about their different strategies, or we can we work with a lot of families who have swallowing and digestive challenges from little ones to adults and tube feeding, so I help them transition into that. And then again, most importantly is full transparency and traceability, and have that trust factor where a lot of our food production these days, you don't really know where it comes from. This is just a really quick comparative of our baby food, one of our baby food products. You can see our vitamin A, C, calcium, protein, and iron is exceptionally different. Food cost, it doesn't really vary too much. We still have that precise, again, reducing packaging and food waste with no fortification, all natural ingredients produced here in Alaska. And of course, I have to share a little baby picture here. This is one of our cuties. He's enjoying his salmon bisque, and this is actually one of the you take the little stars and melt it, or let the little one enjoy it frozen. So these are the 5 ways you can prepare Bambino's baby food from 4 months to 5 years old. You can take for little ones that are new to solid, you can melt that little star, completely smooth. There's olive oil in it that helps hold the star together per se after it's been flash frozen. So the more you melt it, the smoother it becomes. That's how you get the 2 different textures from someone who is new to solid, which is that beautiful cream consistency, to a more textured meal. Tools, or give it to him frozen and do baby-led weaning and let them enjoy it. That's actually what the star is there. So it sits on their gum lines and supports that achy little gum and nurtures, which is a very difficult time many times to feed your little one when they're teething, because they get a little fever and they don't feel so well, but that cool little star feels good and you're getting some nutrients in them. Also, you can also make a great broth, which is the last one here. So it's great as well to make a broth, or, a little natural electrolytes there. Our baby foods not only work for for little ones, also help with adults with dysphagia, late stage cancer, Alzheimer's, dental work. Runners actually love it, and bodybuilders, because of the high protein lean diet. I can prepare it. I would represent, best for an adult to enjoy it either as a broth or as a bisque, which means you melt it very smooth, add in a little bit of olive oil and sea salt or fresh lemon juice, depending on which one. And it's really, really good and very, very nutritious, supporting our elderly. In fact, available through this COVID challenge. I have seen before we were about 25% was our adult sales. Now we're more at 35% as COVID has exponentially brought more attention to families with these nutritional and food challenges and medical challenges associated with swallowing as well. So our baby food we have about 13 different varieties. We're available on Amazon, at bambinosbabyfood.com, where we sell direct to consumer with 1 month supply. And they can get it in 1 month supply or subscribe and get it every other month or every 2 weeks, offer that full connection there. We're actually going to be working with Fred Meyer here shortly, so you'll be popping up and seeing something really cool happening there. And then also another thing that we're working on, if you can see on the top left, second to the halibut, is our peanut manny cookie that helps with little ones who have the peanut allergy and reverse those or help with early introduction. Part of our outreach that we have is really, we're working on a lot of state and federal infant nutrition boards and also helping revise WWII right now. In fact, in much respect, in the passing of our dear congressman, he had introduced recently the Infant Act that would help improve the regulations and offer low-income families more healthier food options. To me, when I presented this to our congressman, I said, I don't care which baby food company does it. I just want families to have healthier access of protein, grains, and vegetables. And currently, WWII does not allow protein and vegetables to be mixed together. Use of organic ingredients, salmon, in fact, cannot be put on in with vegetables. So that's a big thing. The other thing that I wanted to share with you, backtracking, is that our baby food, what we are 85 to 95% Alaskan grown. The small percentage changes sometimes in the end of the season of May and June, where we have that short gap. And then also our olive oil and our rice and our grains are produced in our farm in Greece. So we can offer families that transparency and traceability, and everything else from our vegetables to our proteins are all produced here in Alaska. We do a lot of nutrition consulting. We do cooking classes, helping little ones understand. These are kind of like our outreach. It's we're at different schools and teach little ones how to cook, where the vegetables come from, where the meats come from, how are they prepared, how they they nourish our bodies, and how to create them in a healthy recipe that tastes good and it's easy to make, and also for a family who is a low income within a budget. We do a lot of mentoring, public speaking, all these different things. And it seems like I have lost my picture. One of my pictures, either I passed it with our farms. So I'm going to go back, if you don't mind. We'll just leave it to, let me think. Right, where did it go? I have this beautiful picture. Here we are. We'll go back to this one here. Something that I would love to share with you, actually, this picture here is at our Rimple Farms. And then I'm always on the lookout and support and growing new opportunities with our Alaskan farmers. Things working on is, as we grow as a company, we want to grow with our families. So if you're a farmer and would like to learn or know how you can become a part of the Bambinos family, please let us know. We're always looking for organic and naturally farmed ingredients. Something kind of fun that we're looking in the future. We're looking for sweet potato, which we know yams can't be grown here in Alaska, but sweet potato, we have some practice with that. And we're looking for more farmers who could produce sweet potatoes, leeks, beets, and tomatoes for some of our new innovation and new products. We're also looking to partner with some USDA grants with some of our farmers as well. So that's another opportunity that we can do together. And then we'll fast forward here, go back to that. And then on a fun note, every Friday and Saturday, kind of opening up Bambino's, all the ingredients that baby food we have available for families to also come and create their own meal. So if they're wanting to make a dinner for their family, they can get our Alaskan grown carrots or potatoes or celery, etc., or olive oil, some of our fresh fish. They can actually purchase it at Bambino's Baby Food. I really loved the two talks before me for the seed exchange. If you'd love to bring a seed exchange packet, let's do that. You'll feel like it's kind of like an old school little what do you call it, shop, like you're walking down the streets of Italy or Greece, and it just has that warm welcoming. So we can definitely do also a seed exchange there. I would love to do that. And then of course I like to diversify what I make, and this is my day on Friday and Saturday where I stop producing Bambinos and we start making sugar-free and healthy goodies for the entire family. So we offer classes or things like there is a lot across the street from us that I have been working with to make it into a raised community garden where families can come in and harvest and take whatever vegetables, and we can keep a good lookout for it and take care of it. We have some possibly approval here in a little bit. We're waiting to hear from the mayor's office. So that way we can have one beautification more on Spenard community, and then we can offer some fun cooking classes and maybe bake some bread at the same time and cook something out in the community right there in front of us at Bambino's. So let's get back to our questions. I see there's a few things in the chat. If you guys have any questions, please let me know. Let's see here. I wanted to give you guys a little bit time in the sense of you ask me what you might have. Yes, we do sell our olive oil, and we have 2,000 trees in Greece, and we have, so our original, the one that we make our olive oil is called Koroneiki, and they're these aromatic, beautiful olives. They're actually really, really tiny. You can let them to get bigger, but we harvest in November. So many times, if with the exception of last year with COVID, I end up closing my shop at that time, and we take most of our crew to Greece and we harvest our olives, walnuts, raisins, and all that time. So the olives themselves, we harvest when the olive is young. That's more when it's most nutrient dense. So it's really high in A, D, K, omega-3, and B6. And if you leave the olive to mature, and many times you'll see people that let it drop on the tart or it turns really bright and purple, it can still be considered extra virgin cold press. But unfortunately, all the nutrients and polyphenols have been eliminated in the production of more oil. So we harvest, we're actually the first on the island to harvest. And we want nutrient dense ingredients to provide the most amazing nutritious meal made with love for our families. So I think Alyssa has a question. Can you speak in the impact of using local foods in your products in terms and cost versus selling point of using local foods? I think, that's a great question, because I think it's really, really hard when we think of comparing something. If you're going to compare a baby food fruit pouch versus with Bambino's, who has more quality or more expensive ingredients, which is like your salmon, or we use only filet mignon because of the iron concentration. Anything that you would see beef in is filet mignon for that iron concentration. It's not a really direct comparison. So it's kind of like a false comparison. The only way that you can really understand the on the back of every nutrition label, the number of grams that category is on. So that way you could compare not both just cost wise, but also nutritionally wise what it is. The viscosity of Bambinos is really much thicker. We don't put a lot of water in our food. Families can add water to it. So I think that's a really big, important thing. So when you're comparing those prices, is educating the individuals, which takes time, you know, educating them in that value of the differences that you're offering. So it's, you know, our biggest challenge is when, as we're growing, is to keep growing with our farmers. We'll tell our farmers, you know, this year, our best guess estimate for our carrots is X amount. Please, you know, next year we're going to need more. And we always have to think about it, you know, in December, what we'll need in, you know, for the rest of the year. So that's a lot of the different things. I personally think we have gotten so used to mass production that you really cannot compare the prices. I rather give my farmer the best value, the best dollar that I can, than having to go into all the different levels of distribution. When you have brokers and you have, you know, stores that you add the market, keep increasing the value. By the time you look at the beginning of what that farmer has, the cost of for him to produce it, to by the time it gets to your hands, when you don't have that direct relationship to the farmer, the price is so inflated, it's phenomenal. So one, you also lose that quality of nutrition. So I think that's also a big thing. So not only are you inflating your prices, you're also decreasing the quality of nutrition. For me, I like working directly with my farmers. We can go directly to their farms, see, you know, support, and give them also that support. So I think it's very important that individuals who are looking to expand or grow their business here in Alaska have that direct relationship. Thank you, Carl. Thank you, Alyssa. Thank you, AFPC. Any other questions? Anything else I could answer? I want to really open it up to you all and encourage, you know, other individuals or entities to produce and grow. I think it was one of our biggest challenge, and still to this day, it's warming up now, but where we were heavily guided to move out to the lower 48 and have co-packers do that. I think that is an old concept. Alaska has the opportunity. You do have to do a lot of legwork in productions. There's many different ways. You can find many parallels in different entities that are not associated to your market, and say, hey, how did they do it? How did they expand? How did they partner with these different individuals or things like that? So finding different entities that have a similar thing. In, for example, mine was, you know, when I first thought about Bambinos, you know, they're like, oh my gosh, you're in Alaska, it's going to be so expensive to ship out, or you're so far away, how are you going to do that? And I was like, oh my gosh, Alaska, we have the biggest distribution from around the world with our seafood. How are they doing that? And find, you know, individuals or entities that parallel your concept, not necessarily your product, the concept that you're trying to derive. Carl, you're welcome to come in. We'd love to, I'll give you a tour of our band. Even have a spoonful of one of our bisques as well. In fact, I encourage everyone to come in. We have a short time. I'm actually recovering from a hernia surgery, so I am not there all the time. But hopefully here at the end of April, I will be back at my Bambinos full time. Right now, I've been working predominantly from home and using FaceTime and all these great technology that keeps that distance a little bit closer to us. So I would love to have you guys come over and show you around. And it's a really true honor. I cannot be more excited, one, to grow our business here, and all the wonderful families that we get to partner with and see our little ones grow. I think one last thing I would love to add is that as we're talking about food security, I think this is one of the biggest thing is businesses and individuals that can guarantee our farmers, because that's something that I've constantly heard at different talks that I've given or different panels on, is that farmers are looking for a guarantee kind of sale where they can say, we will produce the product, but we need to make sure that someone will produce, take it off our hands or warehouse it or things like that. So right now, if we are able to get Bambino's baby food approved in WIC, we'll be the first baby food company that is a local grown and produced in our state. And the same thing as we expand, not only are we looking to expand our facility, but we will also expand in case of an emergency, derive our production facility to food production to the masses of a different direction, things like that. So partnering together with our farmers, and also to be able to say, if there is a food challenge, then we could produce something here and support our state and our families. Thank you so very much, everyone. Have a beautiful afternoon. Enjoy the sunshine and happy spring.
Thank you very much, Zoe. That was incredible.
Thank you. Thank you very much, my dearest.
Well, everyone, we are at time, so we're going to have a very short break and reconvene at 5:15 to do the day in wrap up. So feel free to stretch your legs and maybe check out the auction or any of the last minute things before we close down, and then plug back in into the room A, and we'll all wrap up and head out. Thanks everybody for coming.